Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Aquarius archetypes, and I'm going to be using examples for Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Moon, and Aquarius Ascendant. Anyway, first thing up is, well, Aquarius can be known to be very revolutionary and far ahead of their time. There are some athletes that come to mind. Former legendary Aquarius Sun NBA player Michael Jordan epitomizes this energy, I believe. Many people may think unequivocally he was the greatest NBA player of all time and the one who perhaps revolutionized the game of basketball the most. He had a number of ingenious moves that he would use in basketball, and many would agree and concur that he was actually head and shoulders above everyone else. And he had his idiosyncrasies as well, including that famous tongue wagging that he would do. And certainly one of the most cerebral and smartest players ever, I believe. Now, another famous Aquarius athlete that comes to mind is Sun in Aquarius, Babe Ruth, former Major League Baseball player. And I mean, he was so far ahead of his time as far as the power game went, especially. I mean, there were times when he was actually out homering baseball teams. And when he retired, I think he had more than double the amount of home runs that the second place guy had. So, I mean, he really, whether he revived the power game or just simply brought it in, he was certainly somebody that was very iconic and a person that that really was, again, just so far, supremely ahead of one's time. And of course, Aquarius energy can be strongly connected with that. And the thing about another person that comes to mind who I think really strongly embodies Aquarius energy is the late, great, renowned boxer Muhammad Ali. And he was certainly one of the more cerebral fighters ever. And I felt like he was so very far ahead of his time as far as his speed, technique, his agility, just his overall ability. I mean, he would be punching other boxers so quickly. I mean, it would seem like he'd be hitting like, 4 or 5 punches before one of them could actually, the opponent could land one. And the thing about this too is now I look at Muhammad Ali, and he was just, again, with that Leo Ascendant, of course, very flamboyant, but he backed up what he said in the ring with his superior fighting ability, and there was no doubt, at least at that time, he had been the greatest at that period. He said he was the greatest, and he was, at least as far as that era, at the very least, I believe. So, and he also had his little eccentricities as well, which I think could have been attributed to that Aquarius moon. I can remember there was one famous, I would say almost iconic photo of him. Many of you may have seen it, when he had, I think he had like a piece of tape on his mouth, and then he had like a lock that was kind of connected to it. So it looked like he had his, basically he had his mouth shut with the lock. It gave that illusion anyway, or something similar to that. So anyway. Well, another continuing talk about athletes in this Aquarius energy. Well, a person that I think can exemplify very strong Aquarius energy is NBA superstar Steph Curry, who has an Aquarius moon. And anyway, I want to go back to Muhammad Ali, by the way, Aquarius moon, if I didn't say it before. Now, Steph Curry, again, Aquarius moon. And I think, in his own way, he has revolutionized this game of basketball, and not just being proficient in three-point shooting, but the fact that he nonchalantly will hoist up like 35 or 40-foot shots, really doing this seemingly effortlessly with very little difficulty. And he's not just taking shots just barely outside the three-point arc. He's going way beyond it in shooting these baskets like there's no tomorrow. He's obviously one of the, especially as far as contemporary shooters, one of the best, and he will go down, I think, as one of the more prolific and best shooters likely in NBA history. So, and he also, by doing this, he also forces the defenses in the NBA to have to work a little harder, more laboriously, in order to cover cover him too, so it does kind of wear the defenses out a little bit more, I think, as far as when you have somebody that can shoot not just three-point shots, but very far three-point shots that are at a very good distance from the basket. So anyway, now I've talked previously about, how I believe that actors and actresses can often be consciously, if not subconsciously, drawn to roles that correspond with their astrological energies. And I would say that actor Richard Dean Anderson, who played the original MacGyver, is certainly no exception. He has the sun in Aquarius, and on that show, of course, he was known for his ingenuity and in doing things that were very improvised to extricate himself from certain potential disaster. Now, whether it would be defusing a bomb with a credit card, using jugs and rope as a trap, or whether he would maybe clog a sulfuric acid leak using chocolate. Those are a lot of that, I think, is that strong, ingenious Aquarius energy coming out on those episodes. And of course, he is Gemini rising, which of course all this was done really to outmaneuver the opposition, so to speak, or outsmart the situation. So it's just very, to me, it's very uncanny how a lot of where I see actors and actresses often in roles that are so typical of their astrological energy. So anyway, now the thing of, and MacGyver, of course, formulated those plans that were very innovative. Now, another person that comes to mind, and this person has an Aquarius ascendant, is iconic actor Henry Winkler, who many of you may remember. He played the Fonz on the iconic show Happy Days. And he did, very unique things on the show. Just his character was very unique and eccentric, perhaps. Whether it was snapping fingers and making the lights turn on and off, or assembling an engine blindfolded, he just did things that were very unorthodox. And he was very, the character he played was just, supremely unique. And it just really, it seems like he really strongly embodied that Aquarius rising energy in that role right there. And you know that Aquarius, will often do audacious, unusual things that other people may not do it. Now, some of you may remember there was a very famous really epic Happy Days episode when he did that famous shark jump in that episode. And it just shows you, and he was successful in it, of course. And as I stated before, Aquarius often has that energy to do the things that others may simply, the mere mortals or of the world, so to speak, are just simply too hesitant or too apprehensive or reluctant to do. Now, another example of this energy, I think, is Nick Wallenda, who has his sun sign in Aquarius, and he became that first person, of course, to tightrope over the Grand Canyon without netting. And it just really, Aquarius energy is just often about doing these things that really seem, very unusual, unorthodox, things that you may not have seen. Other people may not have even thought of attempting before, but they will often find that way to actually do it. Whether it is, whether you would, where most people would be like, oh, that'd be preposterous. Why would we even try to do that? That is, that there's such a strong risk involved in that. Now, another person that really epitomized Aquarius energy is renowned escape artist Houdini, the late Houdini, of course, Aquarius rising. He performed a multitude of really death-defying acts, that others might have been strongly hesitant and apprehensive in doing, including, there was a buried alive stunt, and I'm sure he had a lot of cynics, a lot of skeptics that really thought, oh, what you're doing is ludicrous, there's no way you should be doing that. But Aquarius, being a fixed sign, they're not going to worry, they're not thinking about what these other people are saying, the skeptics. They're going to just go ahead and do what they have to do anyway. It's almost like they're just meant to be really different and be unique, be distinct, and really do being that nonconformist really, and that is very strong Aquarius energy. Now, another person I think strongly embodies Aquarius energy is head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, NBA head coach Greg Popovich, who has his sun in Aquarius and possibly an Aquarius moon, depending on birth time. Now, the thing about Greg Popovich is that, he'll say certain things at press conferences that might come across a little bit acerbic, a little abrasive, but I think what it is that people really have a certain acceptance of him, because it's generally, I don't see it as malicious. It's just basically people perceive that as Greg Popovich being Greg Popovich. And the thing about Aquarius is that I've noticed that a lot of people seem to be more accepting of Aquarius behavior that might seem a little bit different or odd, but they accept it more as opposed to the other sense, because I think a lot of people understand, and especially people that are really attuned to astrology, that Aquarius behavior is just them being them, and it's just generally not malicious, generally not personal, and they really don't seem like they're being, stating something in a trying to be derogatory or negative towards somebody, but it's just basically them being them. So the thing about this too is there's another person I talk about is that would perform, these at least near death-defying feats, is Evil Knievel, who had an Aquarius Ascendant. If anyone, was one to try something unusual, unorthodox, or something that others would be hesitant in doing, it would certainly be him. Now, he attempted, he wasn't successful, of course, everything he did, but he at least made an attempt to do these things. Now, there was a bust jump attempt that was failed, that he was not successful with, and he was vehemently, adamantly saying he was going to retire after that. He wasn't going to do any more stunts, but he went ahead, and I think he at least attempted one more anyway after that. And the thing about, and really Aquarius is just about being the maverick and doing these things that a lot of other people would just flat out refuse to do, that others would just say be preposterous or ludicrous or what have you. And again, I want to talk about how there are, how we have, actors and actresses that can often be consciously, if not subconsciously, drawn to roles that correspond with their astrological natures. And Aquarius Ascendant Michael J. Fox is certainly no exception, and many of you may remember him from Back to the Future renown. And he played somebody that was tied into things that were futuristic, using these, you going through this time machine or what have you, and just being able to time travel and traverse into different eras and different years or what have you. And Aquarius is that sign, of course, that does correspond with the future. So it was almost like he was just destined to really be in that movie and be one of the stars of the movie. And another, I don't remember what movie it was, but if I remember correctly, there was a scene in a movie, when you talk about doing something unorthodox and unconventional, that Michael J. Fox, he put his face up, it seemed like to by a part of a photocopy machine, whatever he did, he copied his face on the photocopy machine. And it's just these things that Aquarius energy is about. It's just doing something unique and unorthodox, and it's really done. It's kind of like they're saying, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what the cynics say. I don't care what these critics, what people are going to say. If you like me, that's awesome. If you don't, I don't care anyway. So, and one last thing I'm going to on a personal note, I had a friend with Aquarius Ascendant. I've talked about this before in previous videos, but I just can't get enough of this one story. This is just, uproarious. There was one time when I was in the front passenger seat with an Aquarius Ascendant, and what happened was You know how when you go into a parking lot, I mean, usually in you know, like at a business complex or whatever, and where you got a lot of cluster of stores, you go into, there's some driveway chute that you go into. But what he did was, I guess he apparently, what he thought was took a shortcut, and what he did was he drove up the grass hill into the parking lot of the shopping center. So I mean, when I look at that, that really almost really epitomizes Aquarius energy, because Aquarians, of course, could be very unpredictable, and you don't really, I mean, and they will be known to do the things that really are not, you know, are not generally orthodox or conventional, and things that, you know, most people generally would not even fathom in terms of doing. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Aquarius archetypes. Stay tuned next time, where I will be talking about Pisces archetypes. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.